What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome back to Writer's Life Wednesdays. Today we are talking about editing. Not a writer's favorite word. Out of all the words we really love, that's the one that we hate. But like it or not, all writers have to edit their own work. Even if you're sending your book eventually to a professional editor, you have to edit it at some point yourself. You should not send a messy first draft to a professional editor without working on it at least a little bit yourself. For the editor's sake as much as your own, because they're gonna have a really hard time editing it and your bank account is gonna suffer. So let's talk editing that messy first draft. So I got a request for this video, and I'm actually gonna read the comment that I got. It's from Zara Hyder. I really hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Love your videos. Can you do a Writer's Life Wednesday about revising and editing a manuscript? I just finished the full manuscript of my book after NaNoWriMo, and I don't even know where to start in terms of editing the rough sections I was flying through to meet the word count. I also want to find the best way to go back and tie in some of the techniques, themes, etc. I've learned from writers like yourself. Thank you. That is a very good question. Let's work this out in manageable steps. If you're feeling meh about your book and just like it needs a lot of work because like Zara, you were flying through the writing process to meet your word count and now you don't even know where to start with editing, join the club. Just kidding, I actually have some really good advice for you. First, identify what really needs help in your book. You kind of automatically have to break it down into one of these two categories: the story or the writing. See, the story is like the underground, invisible foundation part, the part that nobody sees but is like the most important part, makes or breaks the whole thing. And the writing is more of the surface level part, the way it sounds and paints a picture. Or doesn't. And it's important to separate these two things because there are really two types of editing: developmental editing and copy editing. If you feel like you rushed writing this and the whole structure of your story could be better, then you should probably go back and outline it. Yes, outline it after you wrote the book. You know you love me. If you have story problems, you're going to have to developmental edit and fix the story itself. That involves taking a really objective look at your story and looking at the synopsis, and even reading the synopsis to somebody who you really trust their opinion can help a lot. If you saw the series that I recently posted about outlining a riveting novel, you might remember me saying in the first video that if you outline your novel very thoroughly, you'll never have to write a second draft. You'll have to copy edit, obviously, but your story itself will already be perfected before you even put down the first word of your first draft. If you didn't do this before you wrote your first draft, don't worry, you can rewrite and revise. It's a pain in the ass, but you can do this. You got this. How I usually do this is by going through the book, and if I don't already have a detailed synopsis, okay, I always have at least one detailed synopsis, so this never happens to me. But if for some freaky reason I didn't have one, I would go through the book and write one. So if you don't have a synopsis, write one. It helps so much to have a visual of your story laid out so that you can see what's broken and what needs fixing. A super helpful way to do this is to write out your synopsis on sticky notes. So each chapter gets its own individual sticky note, and then take to the floor or a very large table and lay out all your sticky notes and really look at how that story is laid out. Think about the placement of these chapters, these sticky notes. Does each scene make the scene that follows it inevitable? That's a big, important rule that a lot of books, infuriatingly enough, don't obey. So few people do this. So few people do this, and it is frustrating. Looking at your story structure, ask yourself, does each scene make the next scene that follows it inevitable? If not, fix it. What would really happen in your story given cause and effect? But seriously, don't be afraid to go back and outline your novel as if you haven't even written it yet. Find all those problem areas where you could make your character motivation stronger and where cause and effect just doesn't seem to make sense. Watch that outlining series, please. It's really good, if I do say so myself, and other people have said so too. I've converted hardcore pantsers with this series. Now, let's say you're totally cool with the story itself. You love the story and it doesn't need any developmental editing. It's just the writing that needs help. This is typically the problem that I run into because yes, nano is the time to fly through your word count and not really pay attention to what you're writing. Don't look back, just write full steam ahead. That's kind of the beauty of NaNoWriMo, is to write and to not overthink it and not get self-critical. And that's one of the things I love about it so much. But when nano is over and you go back and read your manuscript or even look at it, we see how bad it really is. Okay, it's never as bad as you think, first of all, because the author is their own worst critic, right? But I know the feeling. It's definitely a real thing. You feel like your writing style is just missing some of that ooh-rah, and it's rushing, or it's dragging, or it's doing something that it should not be doing. First, have you let your story sit by itself for at least 3 months? Preferably 6 months. If not, do that. Chances are when you come back to it, you'll see exactly what needs help. The passage of time will help you to distance yourself from your story and not be so familiar with it. Basically, it will make you more objective. But it's impossible, literally impossible, I don't care who you are, to ever look at your story completely objectively. As the author, you will never be able to 100% be objective when looking at your story. Therefore, you have to ask someone else's opinion on it, even if you're terrified of sharing your writing with other people. Find someone you trust and who wants to see you succeed, and brace yourself for their honest opinion. Let them read your story, or at least the part that you're struggling with, and then ask them what they think of it. Sometimes just having another person read it, they'll notice something like, oh, you should add a line here that describes what she's feeling. Like, oh, I'm feeling like this right now, and fill in the blank, whatever. And it ends up being like, wow, that was like the missing piece that I needed. It ends up being perfect. So I cannot recommend enough that you just share your writing or your problem writing with someone who you trust. And at the end of the day, you have to remember this: writing style isn't everything. Like I said before, the writing part is like the tip of the iceberg, and the story is like the massive actual iceberg underneath. The writing is just the surface part that communicates the story. Obviously, that's a big deal. That's a big job. Writing is like one of the freaking hardest things you can ever be crazy enough to do. But rest assured that if you have a solid, powerful story, you don't need to dress it up with pretty, flowery writing. Let the story tell itself. Trust yourself. Trust that you're a good writer. That's half the struggle right there. And next Wednesday, actually, we're gonna be talking about the comparison monster. So stay tuned for that. Comment below and tell me, did you like this video? And did it help you to maybe identify what really needs editing in your first draft? I didn't really have enough time in this video to go into the whole nitty-gritty process of editing. So if you wanna see a video like that, or even like a real-time editing video, that would be cool. Comment below and tell me if you want to see something like that. Smash that like button if you like this video, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I post writing videos every Wednesday and I would love to have you here in the community. Also, don't forget, this Friday I'm going to be posting that video that I talked about last week on how to become an ARC reader for my debut novel, 100 Days of Sunlight. So stay tuned for that. Until then, rock on. What's up, my friend? What's up, my friend? Abbie here. What's up, my friend? Abbie here. I feel like I'm feeling really weird with these. What's up? First, identify what really needs help about your book. I feel like that's an improper sentence. Sound weird. I need to edit my own sentences. that I speak. This is why I write. Okay. In fact, a super helpful way to do this is to write a short synopsis of every single chapter on an individual sticky note. Like a whole bunch of sticky notes, not like every chapter on one sticky note. That would be really difficult. I want to see someone do that now. Another really helpful way to do this is to write each chapter on a sticky note, a little synopsis of each chapter. A synopsis of each chapter, and that's another thing I want to see now. Write an entire chapter on a sticky note. There's a challenge for you. Oh my gosh. I really am losing my voice. I sound like I have a cold. Okay, whatever.